I'm Elizabeth Gearhart. I'm here with Kimberly Johnston, and her company is Family Court GPS. GPS for guidance system. Are you dealing with the family court and running into obstacles and not really sure how to solve some of the problems you're facing? There aren't very many people who can help you with that, but Kimberly can. So, hi, Kimberly.
Hi, good afternoon, Elizabeth. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm good. Yes, so I'm fascinated to hear all about this. Tell me what you do.
Thank you. What we do here at Family Court GPS is something that's very unique. We help people navigate through the family court system. The GPS is exactly that. It's a navigational system. And to get through family court, you definitely need a strategic navigation. You need to have an idea of where you're going and where you need to end up. Doesn't mean you're going to end up there exactly the way you think you will. Sometimes there will be some roadblocks, sometimes some wrong turns. But what we try to do here is we try to make sure that you hit as few of those roadblocks as possible. We are not attorneys, and we work with people who have attorneys representing them or with people that are pro se litigants, which means that they are representing themselves. And what we do is we will educate, we will empower, and we will encourage our client to understand the process along the way. And we'll try to answer their questions. And if we can't answer them, we will help them find the right people to get them the information they need.
Can you give me an example of someone you've helped without names?
Sure, of course. We have helped, oh my gosh, we have so many. I think one of the ones that comes to mind just recently, unfortunately, with all of what's going on, we had a client who had some issues with the co-parent not returning the children and claiming self-quarantine, right? And really hiding behind this brand new opportunity to withhold the children. And the client was getting some real conflicting information from attorneys and from other people. So somehow they found their way here, which I'm so grateful. And we really worked with them to answer some of the questions, focus the information, and really present the facts in such a way that the judge was able to really understand what was going on. And she had been dealing with this prior to COVID, and then it just escalated, of course, and this was a new way for this parent to withhold the children. So she had been dealing with this issue for over a year, and with our guidance and her really, she was very coachable, and she was very eager to try a new method, right? So we sat down, we strategically mapped out some things. We did some mock court, right? We do that, and we'll really become the devil's advocate and ask really difficult questions that may or may not come up. But we want to prepare you for the worst so that when the best happens, it's even easier. And she was able, and I'm not even exaggerating, within 72 hours, the co-parent was stripped of all parenting time. It became supervised only. And now they have a lot of work to do, but the children are safe. The family dynamics are somewhat stable again. And we were able to help her get to that place. And we help in a holistic way. You know, we listen to that emotional stuff that comes up because we understand that's a big piece of this. And we help bring you, you know, emotions are here and court is here, and emotions don't belong in the courtroom. And it's so difficult to separate them. So in our court preparation, we really make sure that that is brought home. And that makes it a more successful showing when you go to court, especially when you don't have an attorney, right? So that's one of my, I guess my recent favorites, because obviously we had a very successful outcome, and we were able to make a difference in a family, in children's lives, and hopefully that will then be passed on to other people through different agencies, through the agency that she came from, and other places, because we do a lot of work in a lot of different places.
When people going through these family issues are going through just a horrible time in their lives. And so you approach with tough love, kind of is what you were saying.
Yes.
And you also, though, are kind of the sounding ear. So instead of talking to their lawyer about some things and paying $500 an hour, they can come to you, whose hourly rate is much lower, and get the same kind of advice from you, and maybe even better advice, who knows? All right. So that's another advantage of working with you.
Yes, absolutely. Because what we remind people is that when you are in this situation, when you're in any kind of court situation or any kind of legal situation, you have to answer the question, not put out there what you want heard so much. And sometimes we want so much to be heard, and we want to defend an opinion, but the judge doesn't have an opinion of you, right? The judge is there to help get the case solved or the case decided on. And we forget that because we are in a situation where we're just so emotionally charged, and we're protecting other people because this is a family situation. So we're feeling like we're protecting our children, so we become hyper vigilant. And sometimes with that, we don't hear things. So we try to help people hear better, right? Listen to the question and answer the question. There's a time and a place for that. But right now, you need to address this because this is what's critical right now. And yes, we do help people focus. And when people have attorneys, we help them organize their ideas and their thoughts and their questions, and have more specific questions for their attorney, let's say, instead of going in with a list of questions that could be made into 2 questions. And like you said, attorneys charge a lot more than we do. So we sort of help them utilize that litigation fund, so to speak, in a much more successful and viable and worthwhile place.
So do you actually go into the courtrooms now during quarantine, or do you do all this remotely on Zoom? How does it work?
Okay, that's a great question. We do court accompaniment. We did court accompaniment, shall I say. But because we're not attorneys, we cannot go up to the bench with our client, right? So we go in and we are the friend from church, or we're the, woman down the street or whatever. We're just that support system. And we sit with our clients and we encourage our clients. Now with Zoom court, okay, Zoom court is very different. It doesn't even look even close to regular court. And we will do the same sort of thing. I'm available, or my other court accompany people are available via text, via phone call. And we're not part of the courtroom. We're just part of your support system. And we will prep just like we did pre-Zoom court. We prep the night before, in the morning, if you have an afternoon session, and really get you comfortable and confident in your position and what you have to remember not to bring. This is not the place for this. There's a lot of knots that we bring up because there's so much, and we understand, we understand that, we get it. But we also want you to be the most presentable and effective and efficient litigant, especially when you're pro se, because you have to speak for yourself.
So what does pro se mean?
So pro se means that you are your own attorney, okay? Which means you don't have an attorney speaking on your behalf. So when the court addresses you, you are representing yourself, but that also means that you get to ask the questions of the adversary, whether it be, your ex's attorney or he or herself, right? You get to ask those questions. So that's another piece that we try to make a pro se litigant much stronger in their opportunity, because that's an opportunity, but you have to know how to use that opportunity, and you have to know how to be respectful to the court, the language that the court will tolerate and will understand, and how the system flows and how it operates. So we're not giving legal advice. We are just simply guiding you into this very unfamiliar water.
So how much is this like Judge Judy?
Well, let's just say I could certainly write volumes of books. Not very pretty either, because, we learn a lot about human nature here in this office, and good, bad, and ugly. But we get to be Judge Judy in our own office, right? We get to play that very adversarial judge who, they're not always out there, but we also, one of the things that I remind people is every single person sitting in that courtroom is a human being who stubbed their toe in the morning, who might have had a bad hair day, whose child might have been up all night throwing up. Like, this is reality. So and those are some things that I think people forget, and people, attorneys, non-attorneys, court clerks, don't remind us. And then when we're emotionally charged, it just makes it that much more volatile and that much more difficult to navigate. We become a different person when we're that disheveled, is the only word I can think of. And sometimes we look back at the behavior that we showed in the courtroom. We're like, oh my goodness, I hope people don't really think that was me, because I'm really not like that. So we try to remind people who they were prior to this circumstance, and that this is temporary. This thing that you're going through is not going to follow you forever. So let's just get past it the best way possible, with the best outcome, the best foot forward, and then continue to take those steps to your next place.
So it sounded a little bit like you role play with the people. So you'll pretend you're the judge or the attorney for the opposing person, and you'll pretend like you're in the courtroom, and they'll have to respond to you, and then you'll say, don't do it that way, or is that right?
Exactly. And sometimes we have some of our other, some of my other colleagues will be in here, because especially, again, pre-COVID, you've got other people in the courtroom, right? You don't just have the judge, you've got the judge's attorney, your adversary's attorney, and your adversary who's making faces at you or whatever, right? So we will do that to say, okay, no, you can't make faces back, or like silly things that we don't even think about, that, breathe and remember you're an adult, right? And we have to bring that with us when we get into this situation. And so not that we have fun with it, but I try, and what we try to do is, this is a really somber, serious situation, right? So let's try to make light of it, because it's not the end of the world. Death and divorce are the most horrible things. You hear it all the time. So let's try to make divorce a little lighter, because you're not really going to die here. You're going to actually have a whole new life after this, maybe. Or this separation, or this post-judgment, your child support recalculation, or whatever it is that you have going on. It's not going to be forever. So that's a big piece of, we try to just remind us of that, because that's really important.
Right, because it's so laden with emotion. So if you can practice not showing your emotion before you go into the courtroom, you're miles ahead.
Absolutely. And if you can sit in our office for the hour beforehand and scream and yell and cry and swear up and down, whatever you got to do, right? And get it out. And then after the court process, when we're driving back to the office from the courthouse or whatever we're doing, and you can be upset about the outcome or what wasn't heard or what you didn't get to see or what he said or she said, and that was a lie. Okay, this is the place to do that, right? This is a safe place to do that. The courtroom is not a safe place to do certain things. And we get off track.
Where are you located and what courts do you work with?
That's a great question, and I love that question only because we are actually in Glen Rock, New Jersey, which is Bergen County, New Jersey. However, we work, and prior to COVID, we were working remotely in Texas, North Carolina, Connecticut, because we're not attorneys. So we're not barred, so to speak. We don't have to know, like we have to know, obviously, the general stuff, and we'll work with you through forms, but court is court. You know, the emotions don't change if you're in Connecticut or in Wyoming, right? The process is similar. The situations are similar. So we can help anywhere, right? And we like to help in as many places as we can. You know, one of these days I'd like to take a business trip to help my clients actually in person in Florida and Carolina, but you know, but we do have the opportunity and the ability, and fortunately now people are trusting technology more. So people are more open to these Zoom interviews, so to speak. So we can help you anywhere.
So Family Court GPS, and it's familycourtgps.com. Is that the best way for people to find you? Is there another way to find you?
Yeah, so it's Family Courts GPS with an S.
Sorry, Family
.com. That's okay. So it's familycourtsgps.com. That's a great introduction to who we are, what we do. Our phone number is 201-316-2772. And you can contact us through our website via email. You can always text that phone number also. And, you know, we'll get back to you. We have Facebook. We're on Facebook. We're Family Courts GPS on Facebook. And really, we are the only ones who do what we do. We also do family court mediation, workplace mediation, and probate mediation. And a lot of people don't think about probate mediation, but it's the same as a divorce, only somebody's deceased. It's, you know, it becomes Family Feud, the same, unfortunately. And it has that same ugly component sometimes. So we definitely help people in that situation as well. You know, we like to look at ourselves as the place where everybody comes in and nobody loses, and you kind of leave not winning, but not losing. And we try to make sure that everybody has something to say, something to be heard, because everybody wants to be heard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the lawyers don't necessarily want to hear it, or a judge. So you're there to hear it.
It's not their strong point. And that's what I say. You know what? It's not that they're bad people. It's just that's not their strength, right? And part of our story with Family Court GPS is that for me, as the founder and the director and whatever, I actually lived this. I actually went through this. So I know, and most of the women, I do have mostly women that work with me. I do have 2 men that do our equitable distribution. They're professional financial advisors, because that's not my strong point, and I don't want to be, you know, we have a team. But everybody who works here has been through the process, unfortunately. So we all understand all the different components, and I make sure that everybody has a bedside manner of sorts. You know, and I'm not saying we have to hold your hand, and because we do tough love, we do that. I will tell somebody to stop talking if it's necessary, simply to prepare them for what's coming.
Right. Absolutely. Well, this is fascinating, and I certainly hope I can help more people find out about you and what you do.
Thank you so much. I would so appreciate that. And I'm so excited that you invited me and I got the opportunity to talk with you. It was wonderful, and to be able to get this message out there.
Thanks.
Thank you.